Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel A Monk in Cloud. In this video, we are going to see how to deploy Amazon Prime Video application clone with the DevSecOps approach on an AWS EKS cluster. So if you're wondering what are the things that we are going to achieve, we are going to go with DevSecOps approach. Basically, first we will see how to deploy this application by containerizing it, and then we will add security features like gateway check, quality gateway check, dependency check, and also we are going to use Sonar to analyze the code if there are any vulnerabilities, and we are also going to use Trivy to scan the file system and the image to let us know if there is any vulnerabilities that is found. And with the operations, we are going to go with CI/CD pipeline with Jenkins. We are going to go with entire end-to-end pipeline starting from the checkout to the push notification whenever the build succeeds or fails. Along with that, we are also going to use monitoring. We are going to use Prometheus, Grafana, and we are going to monitor the node and also the EKS cluster. So this is going to be a very long video. So take a setback, relax, and just go with this project. So this is going to be one of the important project on your resume. So try to build this one. And a caution here that the demonstration that we are going to do today is not available on the free tier AWS account. So, but I promise you that it is going to be a worth, spending some amount on building this project, because this has got a lot of things that we're going to learn, including the monitoring, including the DevSecOps approach. So without wasting much time, let's understand first what we are going to do, and then we will get started with the project. So firstly, let me go ahead and explain the deployment stages that we currently have. So all you have to focus right now is on this deployment stages. If you see here, there are a lot of deployment stages. One is to check out from the GitHub repository. As soon as a developer pushes the code to the GitHub, it will be picked and analyzed using Sonar for the code base, and it will analyze the code and let us know if there is any vulnerabilities. Once that is done, it will go over the quality gateway, and then OSFS file scan will happen. It will scan all the file system and let us know if there is any issue along with Trivy. So once this is done, the Docker will build the image that the application will be containerized. It is going to build an image, and then it is going to push to your Docker Hub. So, and one prerequisite is that you need to have your own GitHub account. You need to have your own Docker Hub, and you need to have AWS account to build this project. Once the tag and push is done, the image is pushed to the Docker Hub repository. It will scout, the Docker Scout will scout for the image, and it will also check again if there is any vulnerabilities found. And once that is done, we are going to test it by deploying it to a container, and we are also going to deploy this on an EKS cluster with the help of Argo CD. So wait till the very end, because this has got a lot of tools, and we have a lot of learnings to take away. So now let's go ahead and build this project. See you in the AWS console. Also, let me just explain you what we have in this repository. So if you see here, this is Prime Video Clone deployment, and we have Kubernetes folder, we have the source code, and we also have the Docker file here. So if you're wondering where to get this link to this repository, I'll make sure to add that in the GitHub repository or in the description. You can check this out. And one caution here, this is not a code that is developed by me. All credits to Nikhil, who is the developer of this. I forked his repository and started using it, but there was no deployment section in his repository. So I made few changes and I added all the things. So all the installation guide along with the Jenkins complete pipeline code is in the same repository README file. Please go over it if you have any confusions. And as this video is going to be very long, I'm sure that you will face few issues while building this project. So if you face issues, you can always comment out or reach out to me on my email address that you can find in the channel description. Or if you still face any issues, I would always rather encourage you to check all the details and troubleshoot on yourself, so that the troubleshooting skills will also increase. And that is going to be a very important skill when you are targeting for DevSecOps or DevOps role. Okay, so if that is clear, let's go to the AWS console and create an EC2 instance. So I have logged into my AWS console. Now let me go ahead and create an EC2 instance. So if you see here, currently I do not have any EC2 instance. So I'll go ahead and launch an EC2 instance. I'll just say prime server. Okay. So I'll just name this as prime server, and I'm going to select Ubuntu because that is going to be the one that I need to use for this particular project. But if you want, or if you have the commands that I'm going to show in this video for rel based OS, you can also go ahead and use that. But as my commands or the scripts that I'm going to use in this video are limited to Ubuntu or Debian based, I'm going to use Ubuntu. And instance type, I cannot go with t2.micro because this instance will be used to install many tools like Jenkins, Docker, Docker Scout, and etc. So we need to go with t2.large. And if you are on free tier, spend some amount or to build this project, as this is going to give you a lot of learnings. So I'll select t2.xlarge. And for the key pair, I'm going to use yet another key here. But if you do not have a key pair, go ahead and click on create new key pair and download it. Okay. For Linux and Ubuntu based, for Linux or Mac based machines, you can go with .pem, or if you're using Windows, you can always download ppk file and use putty to log in. Okay. If that is clear, let's go with the networking things now. I'm going to use the default AWS VPC without any changes. And I'm going to use an existing security group. I'm going to show you the security group later, so hold on till the very end. I'm going to select my Linux SG. I'll show you what are the inbound rules and the outbound rules in a second. And if that is clear, let's go ahead and configure the storage. In storage, I'm going with GP3, but I'm going to increase this to 30 GB because if you see here, free tier eligible customers can get up to 30 GB of EBS or general purpose or magnetic storage. So I'm going to utilize a full here, that is 30 GB. Okay, and everything else is good. So I'll go ahead and launch instance. So launching an EC2 instance will take a couple of minutes. So I'll go ahead and open this in the new tab. So this is what it is. So if you see here, the instance is still in pending. So I believe you know how to connect to an EC2 instance. So I'm gonna explain that as well. There are two or three approaches. One is going to be used by SSM, and the other one is going to be Instance Connect, and the other one is from your local machine you try to connect via SSH client. So you can install Putty or Mob Extreme on your Windows based machine, but if you're on Mac or Linux, you can just directly go ahead and run SSH commands to log into the EC2 instance. So let's wait for the instance to complete so that we can connect. Okay, so let me select this prime server. If you see here, this is the instance ID, this is the public IP address, this is the private IP address, and etc. So I'll just click on connect just to show you what are the different options that you have. You can go with instance connect method. So you just have to click on connect and it will open the shell or the command line interface in the browser itself. And there is a session manager approach. You need a role and other things in order to work with session manager. So I have also created a video on this. You can go and check that out. But I'm going to use SSH client method here to run this one. So if you are connecting, if you are using this key pair for the very first time, go ahead and run this command because this is really important, else you will get a permission based error. Basically, we are setting the permission here. We are only providing read permission for this particular PEM file. Okay. And if that is clear to you, you can go ahead and copy this example command on your machine. So let me open the terminal. So one caution here, you need to be in the folder where that key file is present. So in my case, I have that key file in the downloads folder. So let me show that to you. So if you see here, yet another key PEM is present in the downloads folder. So let me change my directory to that folder. So I'll just say cd downloads. Okay, so let me expand or enlarge the screen a bit. If you see here, this is what it is. So let me run ls-lrt and you will see yet another key. Okay, so now I need to paste this command which I copied from the AWS console in order for me to log into this EC2 machine. So I'll type yes, and if you hit enter, you will be inside your Ubuntu machine. Okay, so if this is clear to you, let me clear the screen once. As soon as you log into a machine, so always go ahead and run sudo apt update -y. I'm going to update the system as soon as I log in. So if that is clear to you, let's go to our actual repository and continue to install the dependencies that are required. So let me scroll all the way down. So firstly, I need to install AWS CLI. So let me copy this command if the previous execution is complete. So yeah, this is complete. So let me clear the screen. I need to install AWS CLI. So this is the command. If you're wondering how did I or where did I get these commands, so all you have to do is go to browser and just type in AWS CLI install, and you will find the documentation provided by AWS itself. So what I've done is, as it is going to be a one-step guide, I provided all the commands that are required in my repository itself, so that you should not go and search for it manually. Okay, so if you see here, for Linux it is going to be this command, and for Mac it is going to be this command, and etc. So always, if any commands is not working, go ahead, visit their own website and check for the updates, and then install it from the commands that you see. Okay, so if AWS CLI is installed, next let's go ahead and install Jenkins on Ubuntu. So let me copy this. First, let me explain you what we are trying to do. Jenkins require you to install Java as well. So we are going to install JDK here. If you see here, that is what I'm doing. And then we are installing Jenkins here. Okay, so if that is clear, let me copy this one. Let me go to the EC2. I'll clear the screen and I'll paste the command that I copied, and I'll hit enter. And this is going to download all the things that are required in order to run Jenkins application. Okay, so now let me go back to the repository. So the next thing that we need to do is install Docker on Ubuntu. So again, these are the steps or the commands that are required to install Docker. But if this is not working anytime in future, go ahead and refer Docker install Ubuntu. Okay, here there will be a guide for you to install. Follow this approach. If you see here, this is the exact same command that I'm running, and you can install it from the documentation also. So I'll close this one. I'll go to my repository and I'll just copy this command as this is working. And if you see here, Jenkins continuous integration server is up and running from 2 seconds. Okay, so let me go with Control C and clear the screen. Okay, now let's go ahead and paste the command that we copied, that is Docker, and we are going to install it. So I'll hit enter and it is going to download all the things. And it is asking me to whether to continue or not. I'll just type in capital Y and hit enter. It is going to download all the things that are required in order to run Docker. And we also need to install Trivy on Ubuntu. So to do so, you will have to go to this reference documentation and get the command, but I have also given here. So just copy this one and you are going to install Trivy on Ubuntu. So let's wait for this to complete. Yeah, I think this is complete. Let me clear the screen and paste the command to install Trivy on Ubuntu. So again, I'll say why, because I'm going to continue with this, and this will take a couple of more minutes to install Trivy. So let's wait for that to complete, and that is done as well. The next thing that we need to install is Docker Scout. For installing Docker Scout, you need to be a root user on Ubuntu machine. Before installing Docker Scout, let me show you if all the things that we checked is installed correctly or not. So firstly, we installed Jenkins. So let's check Jenkins hyphen version. So if you see here, this is the Jenkins version. We also installed Docker. So let's check the version of Docker that is installed. So the Docker version is 27.3.1. Okay. So next we installed Trivy. So I'll say Trivy hyphen version, and this is our Trivy version that we installed. Okay. So this also looks good. So the next thing that we need to do is install Docker Scout. So for that, I'm going to assume sudo role sudo su hyphen, and here as a root user I will go with Docker login first, Docker login hyphen u, and you should provide the username of your Docker Hub repository. So let me go to my repository, and if you refresh the page here, and if you see here, the username is Among in Cloud. You also need to provide your username that you have on your Docker Hub. So let me do that. So I'll paste that one and I'll hit enter. As soon as I hit enter, it will ask for a password. So go ahead and provide the password. So it is going to be a confidential one. So make sure that you are not, releasing it out on the internet. Once you're done, hit enter, and you will see a message called login succeeded. Once that is done, let's go ahead and install. Let's go to the repository, and you just need to run this command. So let me copy that to install the Docker Scout. So let me paste this, and if you see, it is installed right now. Okay, one important thing that you need to do is you need to change the permission on Docker Scout. So you don't have to go with 777, but provide at least read write permission on Docker Scout for the owner and the user. So I'll just copy this command and I'll paste it once more, and that is done as well. So sometimes you might encounter permission denied while running the pipeline itself. So in order to get rid of that, let's go ahead and run it in the very beginning. So if this is clear to you, I think we have pretty much installed all the tools that are required. If there is any tools that we need to install later, let's go ahead and do it in the later part of this video. Okay. Now, as you saw, Jenkins is already installed. First, let me show you the security group that is there, that is attached to this instance. Okay. So let me open security group. So this is the EC2 instance. If I go to security, and this is the security group. So I'll go ahead and explain all the things that are required. So if you let me click on edit inbound rules, that will be more clear to you. One, I have allowed port SSH 22 for me to log into this server. Without that, I won't be able to. So that is SSH port. And the second one is HTTP port 80. If there is any application that is listening on 80, that will be allowed. And port 443, if any application listening on 443 is also allowed. Now let me explain the custom ports that we have. So port 3000 is required for you to run this application, because you will see that in a while we are running this application on port 3000, and also the Grafana that we are going to use will run on port 3000. And next we have port 9000. 9000 is the port that is required for you to run Sonar Cube. So we will see how to run Sonar Cube, and then we will see why it is required to whitelist port 9000. Once 9000 is also whitelisted, you also need to whitelist port 9100. This is required for node exporter, because if Grafana and Prometheus need to work, the node exporter needs to push the CPU, memory and other details, and that will work on port 9100. If that is clear to you, as I told you, we are going with Prometheus and Grafana. Grafana port 3000 we have already whitelisted, but we also going to need Prometheus port, which is 1990. So I've whitelisted from anywhere. Okay, so if this is clear to you, if you're wondering what are the ports, take a screenshot of this, and you can also whitelist all these ports on your security groups. Okay, if this is clear, let's go ahead and grab the EC2 public IP and let's open Jenkins. So to open Jenkins, paste your public IP port 8080. That is where Jenkins application runs. So let's hit enter. And I don't know if this will run because we have not allowed 8080 here. Let's go ahead and do that. So let me add a rule and it is going to be custom. I'll just say 8080 from anywhere, and I'm going to say this as Jenkins port. Okay, if that is run, let's go ahead and save it. As soon as I save it, if you see here, I'm still not getting a response, but once that is complete, I'm going to get the response. So let me just copy this once. Okay, I'll just paste it again. Sorry, let's redo it. So let me copy the public IP, go ahead, paste it here, and I'll just say port 8080. If I hit enter, you should be seeing a Jenkins application up and running. So let's wait for that to complete. So meanwhile, it is loading. Let's go ahead and also run the Sonar Cube application. So to run Sonar Cube application, let's clear the screen, and you need to run Sonar Cube as a Docker container. So to do that, you can run Docker run -d in a detached mode, and what is going to be the name is Sonar. Okay, and it runs on port 9000. The container port is also 9000, and the image that we are going to use is Sonar Cube and LTS community. So this is the Sonar Cube image that we are going to use, and let me hit enter. And if you see, it is first going to check if this image is already there on the local machine. As it was not able to find it, it went ahead and downloaded it from the Sonar Cube. So now if you see, a container is already launched. So let me just say Docker PS. So it will give you all the Docker containers that are currently running. So if you see here, Sonar Cube LTS community, it is running since 13 seconds. So let's copy the public IP again. So meanwhile, the Jenkins application is up. So copy the public IP, go to your browser, paste that IP and port 9000. That's where Sonar Cube application works. So if you see here, we have also allowed port 9000 already, and that is going to be your Sonar Cube port. Okay, so if this is clear, let's go ahead and check what is happening with Jenkins. So Jenkins will have initial password in this directory. So let me copy that. Let's go to our terminal. Let's clear the screen, and you just have to say sudo cat and paste that path. Here you will get the application password. So copy this one, go to your Jenkins, paste this administrator password, continue, and I will never save this, and we'll go with install suggested plugins. So let's wait for that to complete. So it will go ahead and install the default plugins that we already have. Okay, so let's wait for this to complete. So it will take 1 or 2 minutes to install all of them, and that should be good. And once that is complete, you need to create a first admin user. If you do not want to do it, just keep on continue, but you will have to know this password. But to be on a safer side, I'll just give my own credentials. So I'm going to create a user with the name Amankin Cloud, and I'll just give a password here. And I'm gonna reconfirm the password, and I'm gonna use the same name along with the email address, and that should be good. I'll just click on save and continue, and this is going to be your Jenkins URL. So that is it, and then just save and finish. So I'll just click on start using Jenkins. Okay, so this is going to be your Jenkins dashboard. Now let's go with the Sonar Cube and see what is happening there. So this is your Sonar Cube login page. The initial login password for your Sonar Cube is going to be admin, and also the password will be admin again. So then click on login, and here you will have to change the password. So the old password was admin. If you want, you can provide a new password. So I'll give a new password. So I'll just give a password and update. Once that is done, So this is going to be your SonarQube dashboard. Okay, so if this is clear, let's go ahead and configure Jenkins according to our requirements. So firstly, I'll go ahead and click on manage Jenkins, and here I need to install few plugins that are required in order to work with this project. So I'll click on plugins, and here I'll go to available plugins and search for the plugins that are required. The very first thing that I need to search for is Eclipse. So make a note of all the plugins that we are downloading, because this is going to be a bit confusing because we're going to select a lot of plugins. So firstly, you need to select this Eclipse Tamarind installer for JDK. I'm going to select that one. Next, we are going to use Sonar. So firstly, type in Sonar and you will find SonarQube Scanner. Select that one. Next, we are going to install Node.js. Search for Node.js and you will see a plugin called Node.js. Select that one. Next, we are going to use OWASP that is used for dependencies check. So I'm going to select that one. So now if you see here, already we are done with 4 plugins. Next, we will go with Docker. Search for Docker and you will see a lot of plugins. First select Docker, then go with Docker Commons, Docker Pipeline, Docker API, Docker Build Step. So all these are required. And next we will also go with stage view. So we need to visualize what is happening with the pipeline stage. So we will go ahead and install stage view as well. And we also need to use Prometheus. So let's install Prometheus metrics. This is also required. And then we will go with email extension. So email extension template is also required. Let me select that one. And if that is clear to you, let's go ahead and click on install. So we have installed a lot of things. Just take a moment and go and check what are all the things that we're installing and then come back again. So it is going to install. So if you see here, all of them succeeded. But if you see here for Prometheus metrics, it is asking for us to restart the Jenkins. If all of them succeeded without any warnings here, then we need not restart the Jenkins server. But if you see here, Prometheus plugin doesn't support dynamic loading. Jenkins needs to be restarted for the update. So we are going to click on this and the Jenkins will be automatically restarted for you. Okay, so once this is getting restarted, let's go ahead and configure few things on the SonarQube side. So this is my SonarQube and I'll click on administration, and if you come to security under users, select user, you will see a user called admin. Click on this token. There is a 3 lines, select that one and you will create a token for Jenkins. So basically the idea is Jenkins should be able to speak to your SonarQube and also the vice versa. SonarQube should also speak with your Jenkins. So for that to happen, we need to have a bridge between them. Where do we do that? We will add the SonarQube server on the Jenkins side, and we will also create a webhook on the SonarQube side. For that, we need to create a token because Jenkins needs to check all the updates on the SonarQube, and for that to happen, the authorization need to happen and the authentication need to happen. For that, we are going to use SonarQube tokens. So I'm going to create a token here. So I'm naming that as Jenkins and I'm going to click on generate. So let me copy this. Let's check if the Jenkins application is ready. So if you see here, it is asking for a username and password. So my username was Amankin Cloud, and I will enter the password here. And once that is done, I'll click on sign in. So this is all good now. So we have installed the plugins that are required. Now let me go back to manage Jenkins. So here we need to configure a few things. So I'll show you what are them. So here we just downloaded the plugins. After plugins is done, let's go ahead and configure the tools that are required. So for that, I'll click on tools. Here we need to provide the version of JDK, the version of Node.js, all these things. Let's do that one by one. So firstly, the very first, please have a notebook handy. Make sure to note down all the versions that I'm going to specify in this particular video. So firstly, let's go ahead and install the Jenkins JDK installation First I'll click on add JDK. So make sure to provide the name that I'm using here, because if you see the pipeline script, right, whatever the name that I'm giving here should match exactly what you are using. Okay, so if you see here, the JDK tool that I'm using is JDK 17, Node.js is Node 16, Sonar scanner is Sonar scanner, right? So all these names should match, else your pipeline will fail. Okay, but if you want to make changes, you can go ahead and do that, but also make the changes on the pipeline script. Okay, that is a point that I'm trying to make. Now I'll say JDK 17 and I'm going to install automatically, but from where? I need to install it from adoptium.net, and the version that I'm going to use is, as I told you, it is going to be JDK 17 but 17.0.8.1 plus 1. Okay, I'm going to select that one. Next, I'll leave everything else as default. I'll come to Sonar Cube Scanner installation. I'll just click on Sonar Cube Scanner, and here I need to mention Sonar scanner, and I'll go ahead with the default one because I don't have to change anything here. So I'll let it download as is. So I'm going to install it from the Maven Central itself. Next, we need to install Node.js. So I'll click on add Node.js. I'm going to name this as Node 16, and the version that I'm interested is 16.20.0. So let's search for that. And if you see here, this is the Node.js version 16.20.0. According to your application, you can change this one. Next, we need to install dependency check installation. So I'll click on add dependency check. I'll say dp-check. Make sure to you are using the same name, because that is what we have provided in the Jenkins script. So dp-check, and I'm going to install it automatically from github.com and go with the latest version, because they have resolved almost all the issues on the dp check. Because for a few months back, I was seeing some issues with the dependency check, but with the latest version, it is resolved. Now let's go ahead and install Docker, which is going to be a very simple one. So I'll just say Docker, and I'm going to install it from docker.com. So I'm going to install the latest version, and that should be fine. So I'll recollect all the things that we have done. So I'm going to install JDK 17. The version is I'm installing it from adoptium.net. The version is 17.0.8.1 plus 1. Next, we are installing Sonar Cube. I'm naming it as Sonar-scanner, and this is the version. I'm installing it from Maven Central. Next is Node.js 16. Node 16 is the name, and I'm selecting from nodejs.org 16.20.0. And dependency check, I'm naming that as capital D, capital P, -C, capital check. And I'm installing it from the github.com, and I'm installing the latest version, that is 10.0.4 on today's date. Okay, again I'm installing Docker, and that is going to be your latest version from docker.com, and that's all you have to do. Click on apply and then save this one. Okay, I hope you are all good with this particular step. Next, we need to provide the or token that we copied from the Sonar Cube needs to be added on the Jenkins side. So the very safe thing to do on the Jenkins is to create a credential which will be accessible inside the Jenkins script. So for that to happen, let's go and you should be in the manage Jenkins section, and here you will see credential. So let's click on configure credential, and let's click on global. We need to create a credential here. Basically, this is going to act as a variable in Jenkins, and you can fetch this variable anytime in the Jenkins script. So instead of providing or hard coding the values directly, you are going to add it as a secret, and you will going to fetch it. The redacted secret will be fetched. So let me click on add credential, and this one that we copied, it's going to be a secret text. So we are going to select secret text here. Okay, so make sure to select that, else it will fail. And here I'm going to paste the secret that I just copied, and here I need to name this. So I'll just say Sonar-token. Okay, so this should be good. I'll copy the same and I'll paste it here in the Sonar token. So let me click on create. So once this is done, we also need to create one more token. So for that, I'll click on add credential again. And this time we are going to create the credential for Docker Hub. Why is required? As I told you, as soon as the image is built, it will be pushed to your Docker Hub repository. If you see here, I only have two repositories now. One is Starbucks and other one is a Monkey Cloud. So as soon as the image is built, I have given the option to push that to the Docker Hub. So that for that to happen, it needs to authenticate with the Docker Hub. So for that, we need to provide the username and password of our Docker Hub. So for that, I'll give Docker Hub username will be your email address that you are using with the Docker Hub or Docker repository. So I'm going to use the same here, monkeycloud@gmail.com. And also, if you have any question, you can email to the same email address that you're seeing on the screen. Okay, I'll provide the password here. This should be confidential. So make sure that you're not leaking it anywhere outside internet. And you can just say, I'll say docker-cred. Okay, so that should be fine. I'll just copy and paste the same thing here and I'll go ahead and create it. And we need to do one more thing. Let me go back to my repository. And if you see the post build section here, what we are doing is as soon as the pipeline fails or succeeds or aborted, it is going to send a notification to your email address. So here you need to provide your email address. And for this to work, we need to have authenticate with gmail.com. So for authenticating with Gmail, you cannot use your email address and the password. So Gmail does not allow you to do that. In order for that to work, what you need to do is, so open your Google account. You need to search for app password here. So I'll just search for app password. So if you see here, this is the one. I'm going to select that app password. As soon as you select that, you need to enter the email address and password. So I'm just going to do that. Just allow me a minute. So I think I made a mistake. So just give me a minute. Okay, if that is done, let me click on next. Okay, so once you authenticate, you need to provide the app name. In my case, it is going to be Jenkins. So I'm going to provide the same and I'll click on create. This is going to be the password that you will get. So just copy this one, open any terminal or any text editor just to remove all the files, extra things here. I'll just open a file here. And if you see here, I'll just remove the extra characters that are present here. Okay, so this should be good. So let me copy this one. We need to create one more secrets. So I'll just click on done. So don't worry, this is not going to work for you because I'm going to delete it as soon as I complete this recording. Okay, now what we need to do, we need to go to credential section again. I'll click on add credential. It's going to be username and password. And the password that I copied, I just paste it here. And the username would be monkeycloud@gmail.com. Okay, so if that is clear to you, I'll just name this as mailcred. Okay, I'll just copy the same and I'll add it in the description as well. And then I'll click on create. So we have created 3 secrets. One is Sonar, Docker, and email. Okay, so if that is done, let's go ahead and manage Jenkins now. And we need to configure the system. So for that, go to system and let's go ahead and configure some of the global settings that are present here. So for that, we will come here and here we need to add the Sonar Cube servers. Okay, so let's do that. Click on add Sonar Cube and here I'll just say Sonar-server. And you need to provide the Sonar Cube server URL. So let me go here, copy till here. Okay, so let me copy that and come to Jenkins here. You need to remove this extra slash at the end. And here you need to select the token that you just created. I told you that it's going to be Sonar token. I'll select that one. And if that is clear to you, so this should be good. Next, we need to modify a few things with respect to the email. So let's check that email template. So if you scroll all the way down, you should be seeing extended email notification. SMTP server would be smtp.gmail.com, and the port that it works is 465. Okay, click on advanced and click on use SSL and OAuth 2.0. Credential would be mail cred, so select that one. If that is clear to you, scroll a bit down and you will see you need to provide the same SMTP server. So it is going to be smtp.gmail.com. okay, and again click on advanced and you will say use SMTP authentication. Username would be your email address. Provide your email address without making any mistake. If you make any mistake, you won't get an email. Okay, so just copy this one. Password, you need to provide the same password that we just created. So let me copy that. Do not give any extra spaces. Paste that, and I'll say use SSL. SMTP port would be 465, and I'll also give the same email address here for reply email address. And then I'll test the configuration. I'll provide the email address that I want to receive the notification, and I'll test the configuration. And if you see here, email was sent successfully. Let me go to my email inbox, and if you see here, this is the test email that I've received from the Jenkins. If this is clear, let's go and make one more change, that is to get notification whenever the build fails or succeeds. So there is an option to do that. I need to search for, let's search for trigger, build trigger. Yeah, default triggers. Here I need to select always and also success. Okay, whenever failure and whenever every time basically whatever happens to the pipeline, I should get an email notification. Okay, so if that is clear, let's click on apply and then save it. Okay, so we have pretty much done all the configuration that are required for the Jenkins script to work. So now what we need to do is we need to create a pipeline and then see if the container is executing or not. So for that, so I'll click on new item and I'll say Amazon-Prime. Okay, I'll select pipeline here and I'll go and click on OK. And here I need to paste the pipeline script. So what I've done is I've provided the pipeline script to you here. So first I'll copy and paste this script in the Jenkins, and while it is building the pipeline, we are going to see what is this pipeline doing. Okay, so let me copy this one. I'll paste it here. Okay, so we need to provide our email address here. Let me make this change. monkincloud@gmail.com. Okay, let me verify that again. monkincloud@gmail.com. Okay, so this looks good. Okay, now if this is looking good, let's click on apply and save. Okay, I believe we have covered pretty much everything, so let's go ahead and build this one. Okay, I think the build is started. If you see here, it is using all the state. I'll show you once this build is executing. I'll show you all the different stages that we have. Okay, but meanwhile, let me explain the complete pipeline script to you. Okay, firstly, as you know, the Groovy script starts with pipeline itself, and agent I'm giving it as any. And as you saw, we installed a lot of tools on the Jenkins. One such tool was JDK, and the version that we used was JDK 17. And we also went and installed Node.js, and then version was Node 16. And we also installed Sonar scanner. So that is here, that is created as an environment. And we have different stages here. So firstly, what the stage is doing is this stage will actually perform a particular task that we assign to the Jenkins. So if you see here, the first task would be to clean the workspace. The current workspace will be cleaned and that will be completed in the first stage. The next stage is git checkout. So it will use this repository URL and check out from this. All the code present here will be cloned into the Jenkins server. Once that is done, it is going to analyze the code using in these stages. So that is going to be Sonar Cube analysis. If you see here, the project name would be Amazon Prime, and the Amazon Prime is the thing that we are using. And I think we forgot to do one more thing. So let's do that. So that is to create the webhook in the Sonar Cube. So let's click on configuration, click on webhooks and click on create. I'm going to say Jenkins and URL. I'll just copy the Jenkins URL here till 8080, paste that, and you need to add one more character here. That is going to be Sonar Cube hyphen webhook slash. Okay, if this is done, click on create. So this is all you have to do on the Sonar Cube side. Sorry, I forgot that, but it is still working. So after this is done, I think the pipeline will execute without any issues. Now let me come back to the code. So these two steps will scan the code and it will let us know if there is any issues. And next we are installing the dependencies by running npm install. And once that is done, it is also going to check for OSFS scan, that is scanning for the file. So we recently found issues with the log4j and all, right? So if there is any issues with the dependencies and things like that, it will be scanned in the OSFS scan. Then we are going to use one more scan, that is we are going to check with Trivy file scan. So the command to run to scan the file system is trivyfs dot. So that will the result that we get will be redirected and stored in a particular file called trivy.txt. So once this is done, it is going to build an image with this command docker build -t. We are tagging the image with Amazon Prime for our Docker file present in the same working directory. Once the image has been built, it will go ahead and tag the image and it is going to push that image to the Docker Hub repository. So this command docker tag Amazon Prime is going to tag the image. If you see here, Amazon Prime latest is the image name, and it is going to push that to your Docker Hub repository. Now you might ask me where it is going to push. As I told you, it is going to push to this Docker Hub, but it is going to use the credentials that you stored in the Jenkins secret. And if that is done, it is going to scout for the image. If there is any CVEs, any recommendations, it will show you right there. And once that is complete, you are going to deploy a container by running docker run -d. Name is Amazon Prime, and it is going to work on port 3000. Why is that? I'll show you in a while. And it is going to use the Prime Prime video image that we created from the Docker Hub repository. Okay. So after this one, if the pipeline build succeeds or fails, it is going to give you the Trivy file scan report along with the Jenkins log will be shared to your provided email address. So we made this change in the Jenkins script, and this will send you a notification on the email address. Okay, so let's check what is happening here. If you see here, it is stuck at quality gate. It is taking 534 milliseconds. So let's wait for that to complete, and if that doesn't work, you will also get a email notification. So no worries on that. So if this is clear, let me show you the Docker file once. So I'll come back here, and if you see here, this is the Docker file. I'll open it. If you see here, I'm going to use the node Alpine as the base image, and the working directory would be /app. Okay, so after this is done, in the working directory, it is going to copy package.json and package-lock.json to the application folder. So if you want to verify where is this file, package.json and package-lock.json is present, I'll show you that in a while. and it is going to run npm install, and then it will copy the entire code base to the working directory /app, and it is going to expose port 3000. So that is your container application port, and it is going to run npm start. So this is the Docker file. Now, if you want to verify where is this package or JSON and all present, let's go to the repository. If you see here, we have package.json and package-log.json. Okay, so if this looks good to you, so let's see what is happening with the Amazon Prime application. Let me refresh the stage once. Let's see what is happening in the logs. So it is saying wait for Sonar Cube analysis to be completed and return quality gate status. So let's go and also check in the Jenkins if the project is created or not. If you see here, a project with the name Amazon Prime is already created and it has passed the quality gate, and it is giving you an overall view as what is happening with the vulnerabilities, there is any hotspots, and if there is any code smells and duplication of the code, etc. Okay, so if I go to the build logs here, let's see what is happening. Let's check the console output. Let's scroll down, and if you see here, it is saying that execution has succeeded. Now it is checking for the status of this one, and it is saying Sonar Cube task status is in progress. Okay, so let's give a couple of more minutes for it to complete. Meanwhile, we will also go ahead and create a server for monitoring all the things that we are doing. So for monitoring, why I'm going with a separate server is because X large will not be enough for completing all the tasks. So rather than deploying or installing all the things on a single server, can go ahead and create a big server and install all the things, or you can split between two servers. Okay, so now let's go ahead and launch a new EC2 instance that is for monitoring. So on that instance, we are going to deploy Grafana. We are going to install Node Exporter. We are also going to install Prometheus, and then we are going to monitor all these things. Okay, so without wasting much time, let me click on launch instance. I'm going to say this I'll say monitoring -server. Okay, I'm going to use Ubuntu itself, but the instance type I'm going to use is t2.xlarge, and I'm going to use the same keeper that I used, and I'm going to select the same security group because we have already allowed all the required ports on the same security group, and I'm going to use 30 GB again, and scroll all the way down and click on launch instance. So let's wait for a few minutes for the instance to get launched, and meanwhile let's check what is happening with the Sonar Cube analysis, or let's see the Jenkins script here saying pause for 8 minutes. So what I'll do is I think I realized the mistake that I did, that is I did not configure the webhook before, so maybe that's the reason why it is taking more time, but I don't think that will ever happen. So what I'll do is let me build one more and see. Okay, I'll stop this one, I'll cancel this build, and let's see if this works in the second build. So I've allowed enough time here. If you see here, these are all the different stages that we discussed. And now if you see here, it is analyzing Sonar Cube, and later let's see, because if you see here, it paused for almost 8 minutes without any updates. I think the mistake was that I did not create the webhook before. So when it was running, I created the webhook, and that's why it was stuck in that stage. And if you see here, it did not take more time, and it completed within 381 ms. Now it is installing npm dependencies. Next, it is going to scan for the OS file scan, then the Trivy file scan, then it is going to build an image, then it is going to push it, then Docker Scout will scout for the image, and then it is going to deploy the container, and then it is going to email us whether the application was deployed or the pipeline failed or anything that happened. Okay, so this particular stage, OS file scan, is going to take a lot of time, at least 25 to 30 minutes, because it's going to scan all the things that are present in the code base. So let's allow that time for that pipeline to complete. But before that, let's complete all the other monitoring section that is required for this, project. So let's go to the EC2 console. And if you see here, I think we have this monitoring server. Let's go ahead and click on connect, and let's copy the SSH client example. So I'll open one more terminal. If you see here, this is a terminal that we opened for the Jenkins server or the Amazon Prime server. Okay, so let me clear the screen, and I'll open one more window where I'll be running this one, where we are going to install the monitoring ones. Okay, first let me zoom in a bit. Let me go into downloads folder. Okay, and here I need to execute this command because my key file is present in the downloads file. So I'll just say yes, and I'm inside the Ubuntu machine again. So this machine is only for monitoring section. So let me clear the screen. Let me go to the repository that I'm using. So let's go to the phase where we need to install all the things for monitoring. Firstly, we will install Prometheus and Grafana. Then we will set up Prometheus and Grafana to monitor the application. So firstly, let's go ahead and install Prometheus. To do that, firstly, we need to create a dedicated Linux user for Prometheus and download the Prometheus. So that is happening in the first line of code. We are creating a user called Prometheus, and then we are getting all the dependencies that are required for downloading Prometheus in the second code. So I'll just copy these two lines and I'll come to here and I'll paste this one. Make sure that you are running this in your monitoring server, not on the Jenkins server, because if you do that, Jenkins server will not process all the tasks within a few seconds. It is going to take a lot of time. So to avoid that, create a separate server for monitoring. Okay, so the first step is complete. Now we need to extract the Prometheus files and move them into the directories. So let me copy this one. I'll paste this here. So basically, whatever the things that we download, we are extracting that by unzipping it. So if that is done, now we need to change the ownership of the directory. So let me copy this one. I'm gonna run chown, and we are granting permission to Prometheus user rather than the Ubuntu user. So if that is done, we need to create a systemd unit configuration file for Prometheus. In order for that to happen, we need to copy this path. So we are going to say /etc system prometheus.service. Basically, we are creating a service for Prometheus itself. So I'm going to copy that one. So I'll just clear the screen for you so that you get it visualized clearly. So I'll open VI editor because that's my favorite editor. So I'll just paste this one, and then we need to add this content into this file. So let me copy that, and I'll go into the interactive mode or the insert mode, and I'll paste this. And now I'll click on escape :w quit, write and quit with an exclamation mark, and I'll hit enter. So that file will be saved. Now the next thing that we if you do not know what are the things that are present here in the configuration file, refer to this one. I've given you what are the things that are happening there. Now we need to enable and start Prometheus. So I'm going to run this command systemctl enable Prometheus and then start Prometheus, and then we will check the status of Prometheus. So I'll copy this one. I'll come here, paste both of these commands. It created a symlink, and that now we will check the status of Prometheus. I'll just hit status, and you will see active and running since 7 seconds ago. Now I'll just say Control C to come out of that, and you should be able to access your server with the port 1990. Okay, so now let me go back here. So I'll go and let me see the monitoring server. I'll select the public IP address. Let me go here, paste this one, provide 1990, and hit enter, and you should be seeing the Prometheus server. So let's wait for that to happen. I think it says a site can't provide a secure connection. That should be fine, but let's make sure that we have 1990 open here. I think Prometheus port is already open. So that should be good. If you see here, it's open from all the ports, all the IPs on this port 9090. So let's give a moment for that to work. But you see here, Prometheus server is already enabled and it's up and running. Okay, let's see if there is any command that I missed. Okay, so you can access Prometheus in the web browser using the IP address. So I'll remove HTTPS and I'll hit enter. Okay, so the issue was it took HTTPS rather than HTTP because we do not have the SSL certificates installed. Okay, so now if you see here, let me click on status and let's go to targets. And if you see here, there is only one target, that is Prometheus, which is running on localhost, and it is giving us the metrics and all the things that are required. Now let's go ahead and follow the same steps that we have in the readme.file. We need to install Node Exporter. So firstly, again, this process remains same. You need to create a system user for the Node Exporter. We are calling that as Node Exporter, and then we are installing all the dependencies. Then we are extracting all the files and things like that. So let's follow this one by one. Let me copy this one. Firstly, I'll come out of this directory and I'll be in the home directory now. Let me clear the screen so that you won't get confused. So let me face the command that I copied, and it created a user called Node Exporter. That should be fine. Now let's extract the Node Exporter files, move the binary and clean up. So I'll copy this one and I'll paste this again. So it is going to extract all the dependencies required. Now again, we need to create a configuration system unit. So I'll copy this path and I'll come and clear the screen here. Next, I'll sudo and I'll open the VI editor and paste this path. And then I need to provide these details. Let me copy that. And I'll go into insert mode by clicking on I, paste, Control V. Next, I'll click on escape, :WQ, and I'll hit exclamation mark and I'll hit enter. And that should also create the Node Exporter service. Next, we need to enable and start the Node Exporter service. So to do that, you can use systemctl enable Node Exporter, systemctl start Node Exporter. So I'll just copy this one and I'll paste it here. Okay, so that created a symlink. That should be fine. Next, let's check the status of it by running systemctl status Node Exporter. And if you see, it is active and running since 8 seconds ago. Let's come out of this command by clicking on Control C. And then let's see what is the next step that we need to do. And as you saw, we created Prometheus service, but we need to add a particular job in order for the Node Exporter to fetch the details and provide it to the Prometheus. So for that to happen, we need to create two jobs, basically one job with the name Node Exporter, which is going to have static configs. So you are going to use the Node Exporter host address here along with the port number, and we are also going to monitor Jenkins. So the default path would be /metrics, but as we are using metrics path as /Prometheus, we're going to use that. And then we need to provide our Jenkins IP address along with the port here. Okay, so let's do that. Firstly, as far as I know, the Prometheus.yaml file will be present in /etc/Prometheus. So, but let's verify that. Let me cd into /etc/Prometheus. Let's see if there is any file with the name Prometheus.yaml. If you see here, there is a file called Prometheus.yaml. So we need to make these changes there. So let me open that in a VI editor so that we don't miss out on anything. So let's open that, sudo vi and Prometheus.yaml. I'll hit enter, and if you see, a default job is already there with the name job name Prometheus. Now we need to add two more jobs, that is this. So let me just copy this one. So these two things I'll copy. These two global scrap intervals and scrap configs are already there in the files. If you see here, scrap intervals and scrap details, scrap configs are already there. So that is fine. That's the reason why we are able to see it's scrapping the details from the local host. Now let's do it from for the Prometheus and the node exporter. So I'll just click on I'll come all the way down here. We need to make sure that the indentation is proper here. So if that is not there, it doesn't work as expected. So I'll come here, paste the things that I copied. Node exporter, I need to replace the node exporter IP address here. So I'll provide the node exporter IP address will be the same EC2 instance that we are currently using, that is monitoring server. So let me go to the instance here. I'll copy the public IP and I'll come here, paste the IP address. But for the Jenkins, we need to provide the Jenkins IP address. So I'll just remove all of this. I'll just copy it from the web browser. So I'll just say delete all these things. Let me go to the Jenkins file here. I'll just copy until here because this is going to be the address. So I'll just try to paste that. I'll remove the extra slash at the end, and I also do not need this http:// so I'll just remove the unwanted things. Next, I'll click on escape : write q write and quit wq exclamation, and I'll hit enter. So if that is done, let's go back to our repository. There is a tool called prompt tool which is going to check if whatever the edits that you made, if it is valid or not. So if you see here, prompt tool check config, and if you run this command, it will basically tell if the config that you made changes is a valid one or not. So let's go ahead and run this. And if you see a success message, that means that you have done it well. If not, it will give you a failure message. Okay, so watch out on that. Now we need to reload on the Prometheus, because without reloading the Prometheus configuration, it doesn't work without restart. So I'll just reload it. And if you go and access your Prometheus, and if you see here, let me just refresh it, you should be seeing node and you also should be seeing Jenkins. Let's check if we see that. And if you see here, node exporter is already up and running, and we also have Jenkins that is up and running. So if you click on this URL, you will see all the metrics that is getting scrapped. Okay, so this looks good. We have three things. One is Prometheus, one is node exporter, and the other one is Jenkins. So let's check the status of the pipeline, and if you see here, it's still executing. It's taken over 13 minutes to complete. Okay, now we also need to install Grafana. So let's go ahead and install Grafana on the same monitoring server. So to install it, let's go ahead and copy this code. Let me clear the screen for you so that it's easy for you to visualize. Let me paste and enter the code that I copied from the repository. And once that is done, we need to add the GPG key. Let me copy the second command. Let's wait for this to complete. I think it's done. So let me clear the screen, and I'll paste the second command that I copied. So before that, let's go outside. I'll go with Control C, and let me do CD and come to the home directory, and then I'll just add this one. If you get OK, that should be good. That means that you're doing it right. Okay, now we need to go and run the third step, that is to add this Grafana repository. So let me copy that and paste it. So that is done. Next, we need to install Grafana. So firstly, let me copy this one. Basically, it will update the system and then install Grafana. So let's give it a moment. Okay, so while that is happening, let's automatically start Grafana by running this one, sudo systemctl enable Grafana server. Let me copy that. So let's wait for that to complete. I think this is complete. Let me clear the screen and execute systemctl enable Grafana server. So if that execution is complete, it will create a symlink for you as a service. Now we need to start the Grafana server by running systemctl start Grafana server. Let me copy and paste that. And once that is done, let's check the status of the Grafana server. So Grafana server is up and running since 6 seconds. Let's come out of this command by clicking Control C, and you should be able to access your application on port 3000. So let's do that. So let me copy the public IP, go to the Grafana dashboard, paste this, go to the browser and paste the IP address with :3000, and you should be seeing the Grafana dashboard coming up. Okay, so if you're seeing this Grafana dashboard, you need to provide your email address and password. The default one would be admin, and also the password would be admin. So let's enter that and click on login. So it's asking for us to change. I'll click on never. I'll click skip for now because I don't want to change the details now. So I'll do that later. And if you see here, this is the Grafana dashboard. The very first thing that you need to do as soon as you log in is to add a data source. So either you can click on data sources here, or you can also go ahead and add under connections. Okay, first let me click on add data sources here directly, and we are using Prometheus. As you saw, we are using Jenkins node extractor. So let's select Prometheus. So it is open source. It is open source time series database. So let's select that. And here I need to provide the Prometheus URL. So let me go here, copy the URL from the browser directly rather than entering it manually. I'll paste this here, and that should be good. So let me make sure that if slash at the end is required or not. So I'll just remove that and scroll all the way down. You don't have to do anything else, and click on save and test. So if this test successfully queried the Prometheus API, then we are good here. So you don't have to do anything here. Next, let's go to dashboards. Here we are going to import the default dashboard that is created and developed by Grafana Labs for Node Extractor and Jenkins. But we need to provide the ID of the Grafana dashboard. As we do not know, what you can do is go to the browser and search for Grafana Node Extractor dashboard. So if you see here Grafana Node Exporter dashboard, if you see this one, where the very first link that you will find is Node Exporter full. So scroll all the way down. This is where you need to copy the ID. You copy this. Go to your dashboard. Click on this plus icon here. Click on import dashboard. You need to provide the ID here, which is going to be 1860 for your Node Extractor. Click on load, and once that is done, you need to select the Prometheus database. I'll select that Prometheus and I'll click on import. So once you do that, it will automatically create a dashboard along with the details. If you see here, the CPU utilization is so and so, the system utilization, the memory utilization, the network bandwidth, all the things will be provided to you in a beautiful way. Okay, if you see here, this is the CPU utilization. So this is for the CPU utilization is currently below 50%, which is good. And note that this is for your Node Extractor. We also need to do a few more things. So before that, let's go ahead and save this. So the name is Node Extractor full, that is fine, and I'll click on save. Okay. Now we also need to add one more dashboard, that is for the Jenkins. So I'll go back. So I'll say, instead of Node Exporter, I'll say Jenkins here. Sorry, I'll just search for it again. Sorry, Grafana Jenkins dashboard, and if you see here, the very first link that you get is this one. Let's copy the ID again. So I'll just copy this ID, go to the same dashboard, click on plus button here, again import the dashboard, provide the ID that you copied, which is 9964, load it, and you need to select the Prometheus database. I'll select that one and I'll click on import. As soon as you do that, you will also get the details related to your Jenkins. If you see here, the memory usage by Jenkins is 483 MB, and the health of Jenkins is good. And we are not running any nodes, that's why it says none. And the CPU utilization and executor free and how many executors are in use, all those things will be provided to you. Okay, so this is one more dashboard, so you can also save this one. Okay, now this is for your Jenkins and the node exporter. So if you go to the dashboards, you will see node exporter full and Jenkins. Okay, so whenever you want, whichever the dashboard that you want to visualize, can come and you can visualize the data. Okay, so this is done. Now let's go back to the pipeline and see if this is executing. It's still executing. It has taken over 20 minutes to run. So we need to wait until this is complete. But before that, what we can do is, as you saw, we need to go ahead and run the same application on Kubernetes as well. So in order for that to happen, we need to create a cluster in an AWS account. For that to happen, we have a service called Managed Kubernetes Service by AWS, that is EKS. So I have created a separate video on how to create a Kubernetes cluster, but I'll show you that as well. So it is very straightforward. We need to first create an EKS CTL. We need to install all the things that are required, but for that I've created a separate video. Make sure to watch what are the things that are required to install EKS CTL. That is very straightforward. I've shown you in a one particular video. Okay, firstly, let's go ahead and create a cluster using EKS CTL. So let me just copy this one. I'll just rather copy it here. So I'll use VS Code because that's going to be very useful for me. I'll just paste EKS CTL create cluster, and the name of the cluster that I'm going to use is AMC demo, and the region that I'm operating is US East 1, and the zone I'm selecting is 1A and 1B without node group, because we are going to add the node groups later. Once I hit enter, this EKS will be created automatically. It is going to create a CloudFormation stack in my AWS account, but it is going to take a lot of time, right? So at least we need to wait for another 15 minutes for the cluster to come up. And once the cluster is ready, we need to create and associate IAM OIDC provider, OpenID Connect provider for our EKS cluster. You can just run this command, and once you do that, you can also go ahead and create a node. So this is required for you to create a node. So once that is done, you're all good. You can go ahead and start using your EKS cluster. So let's see how much time it takes for creating a cluster. So also at the same time, our application is still running, and we need to wait until this application completes, and then we need to deploy the same application on an EKS cluster and verify if it is ready or not. So firstly, let's wait until this OWASP completes, and then we'll see if other build stages fails or it will succeed or not. So let's fast forward it until this OWASP FS scan is complete. All right, if you see here, it has taken almost 25 minutes for the OWASP file scan to complete. Now it is in the Trivy file scan, so that took almost 21 seconds. Now it is building the Docker image. Let's check the logs at the same time. So I'll just open this one. Let's go all the way down. Let's see what is happening in the Docker build stage. And if you see here, it's running all the commands that is present inside the Docker file. If you see here, it is copying all the things into the app folder. Then it is exporting all the things. If you see here, it says cannot find credential matching Docker, and Docker image got skipped. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. Says it's extracting. Okay, Docker file. This is done. This is also good. Writing image Docker Scout skipped. Okay. It sent an email saying could not find credential matching Docker. But let's see what's happening there. So let me go to the Jenkins pipeline. So let's verify the pipeline once. Okay, this is where it failed. If you see here, it failed at Docker build stage. So let's see the Docker credential once. So I don't know if I provided it right. So let's check it once. I mentioned it Docker cred. So let's see that once. Okay, so after, let me cancel this one. So what I understood is, let me show you what the mistake that I've done. Basically, in the script that I'm using, the Jenkins script that I'm using it as Docker cred. Okay, so I've given that as Docker, but in the pipeline or the secret that I created is actually having Docker hyphen cred. Because if you see here, the credential ID that I'm using is this Docker only, right? So this is where the issue is. So what I need to do is either there is two options. One is to have a credential changed, or you can edit the name of it. So let's do that instead. So what I'll do is I'll just rename it to Docker. So I'll just try to do that. I don't think I have that privilege to do it. So what I'll do instead, I'll just delete this one. Okay, so I'll just delete it. I'll create a new credential with the same username and password. So a monk in cloud at gmail.com, and I need to provide the password here. I'll make sure to provide the right password because else it is going to fail. I'm going to mention that as Docker and Docker here, and I'll create it. Now if I run it, it should pass without any issues. So I'll go to dashboard, I'll go to Amazon Prime, and I'll click on build now. Sorry for this one because I didn't realize that mistake. As I told you, you need to be very, very cautious when you're triggering this one. Okay, so I'll cancel this. I think I triggered two of the pipelines. But if you see here, the fourth step is the fourth pipeline is still going on. If you see here, it should not take more time because it has already scanned the file system and it is going to take very less time. So let's wait for this to complete. It is analyzing the code now. Next is quality gate, and then comes npm install, then OASP file scan and things like that. So let's wait for this to complete. While this is completing, let's see if the cluster is up or not. So let's go to our CloudFormation stack and verify if that is complete. If you see here, a stack was created with EKS CTL EMC demo cluster and it is complete, but it's still running here. Let's wait for that to complete. Meanwhile, the pipeline also can run. And if you see here, it has already entered OASP file scan. Now that will complete, and then we'll go with a Trivy file scan. But one thing that you need to know is always troubleshoot the issue upfront rather than asking the creator itself. It need not be me. Whichever the video that you follow, if you face any issues, don't go and just comment saying that I'm getting this error, how should I resolve it? Try on yourself first. You have a lot of tools like ChatGPT. I encourage you to do that. So there is no harm in getting used to the Gen AI tools, and you also can use Stack Overflow or just Google it, because there is no issue that is already present which is not resolved by anyone, right? So you can use these public community to get that resolved. And if you do not find anything handy, then you can email the creator or the add a comment on the video saying that this is not helping, there is something that is missing here, make a video on that or something like that. But if you upfront go ahead and say that this is not working, please help, without without checking anything, that's not going to help, right? So first do that and then come back to the comment section. Now let's see if the cluster is ready. If you see here, the cluster is already ready. Okay, so let me clear the screen. Now let's go back to the same repo. As I told you, we need to create and associate IAM OIDC provider for the EKS cluster. For that to happen, I need to run this command. But in your case, if the name of the cluster is different and if the region is different, make sure to edit that. But if you see here, this is the actual template. So let me copy this one. Let me go to the VS Code and I'll run it. and this should not take more time. It should be completed within 20 seconds. Okay, if you see here, this is done. Next, we need to create the node groups. So to create a node group, I've provided the command here as well. If you see here, you are creating EKS create node group, and this is the cluster name and region. All those things are provided. Let's just copy this one. Let's go over here, paste it, and this is going to create a node group for you. But if you want to check what this is also going to create a CloudFormation stack. If I refresh it, it will actually go ahead and create a CloudFormation stack, a separate one. Okay, but before that, let me go to the EKS Elastic Kubernetes service and show you the cluster configurations. If you see here, we have a cluster with the name AMC demo and it's active. But if you see the compute, there is zero nodes or zero node groups that are currently present. So that's the reason why we have created a node group. And this is the overview. This is the API server. This is OpenID Connect. And this was created 13 minutes ago. Okay. And this is the networking part. We are creating a new VPC for this one. Actually, if you go ahead and run EKSCTL create command, it is going to create a new VPC and all the networking related things for you. Okay, so that is one thing. Now let's check the pipeline. If you see here, OAS file scan is done, Trivy file scan is also done, and if you see here, Docker build image is also done, test tag and also push to the Docker hub, and let's see that. Okay, so let's go to the repository, and if you see here right now we have Starbucks and a Mountain Cloud, and if you refresh it, you see Amazon Prime pushed less than a minute ago. And if you see here, this is the details of the image. Okay, now let's go to the pipeline and see what's happening. If you see here, this is done and it is scouting for the image. So if you want to verify the logs, you can open the console output and see that. I'm not going to edit whatever the things that we did in this video, because that is going to be a learning lesson for you. Because what we do is usually whenever we get an error, we pause the video and edit it. But I don't want to do that, because you also need to know how I troubleshoot the issues, right? So you might also encounter the same issue while doing so. Don't just blindly follow the code or the content that I'm sharing. Analyze it, understand whether I'm doing it right or not. If I'm doing wrong, let me know in the comment section. If I'm doing it right and this video helped you a lot, let me know in the comment section as well. So if you're watching the video till now, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, because that motivates me to make videos like this a lot. So next I'm planning to go with deploying a Node.js application with the DevSecOps approach. So if you're really interested on that, please let me know in the comment section. So let me know that if you're building this project on a weekend or something. So tag us online. We are available on all the social media platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. We are available at Mountain Cloud. So you can search for it, and you can also tag us and mention that how this video has helped you, and you can also summarize your learnings on the video. Okay, so that will really help a lot. And if you see here, this pipeline is completed, and now to access the application, what you need to do is, let's go to the EC2 instances. Let's copy the Prime server, because that's where actually the container is launched. So let me copy the public IP. Let's go to the browser and I'll use port 3000, because that's where the Prime application is running. And if you see here, the application is running. As I told you, this is very simple application, but it is not the exact replica of Prime. Whatever the videos that you see on Prime today is not something that you see on this particular platform right now, because that needs some other integrations as well. So this is a exact clone replica of Prime, but the videos that you see on current Prime version is not something that you see right now. Okay, and so this is how you create a DevSecOps project. But we also need to do some more things that to deploy the same application on EKS cluster. So we are waiting for the EKS cluster to be up and running. Once that is done, we are going to deploy the same application on an EKS cluster using Argo CD, and then we will see if we are getting the same application or not. Okay, so let's check the status of the nodes. I think it is already done. Let's go and verify that in the console as well. And let's go to compute. Let me just refresh this once, and you will be seeing 2 nodes, okay, and node groups is already there. Okay, so the cool thing is, if you are using EKS CTL command, it will be the cluster that you will be using will be automatically updated. So you just have to run kubectl get nodes, and you should be seeing 2 nodes that we created. Okay, if you see here, this is the 2 nodes that we created 3 minutes ago. Okay, now let's follow the same steps that we have in the documentation. So we have done all these things. Next, we need to go with monitor Kubernetes with Prometheus. So for that to happen, first we need to run few things. That we need to install Argo CD first, and then we need to deploy the application using Argo CD. So how to do that? Firstly, you can search for AWS EKS Argo CD. There is a workshop that they have created. So EKS Argo CD demo or workshop. Let me check that once. Basically, it is giving you the code and everything. Yeah, this is the one. So you need to install. Basically, this is not. This is already archived. The new version of workshop is already available, but we are not following the workshop here. We just need the commands to install Argo CD. That's all. So what I'll do is I'll provide the link to this in the description. You don't have to worry. Firstly, we'll go ahead and create a new namespace, and we are going to apply this one. So let me copy this one. So let me go here and clear the screen. Let me clear it and then paste this one. This is going to create a new namespace called Argo CD. So let's wait for that. If you see here, a namespace called Argo CD already created. Let's wait. So custom resource definition is getting applied. This should not take more time. So let's give it a moment. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and explore the documentation. Okay. Next, if you want, you can install Argo CD on your local machine, but I do not need that, so I'll leave that as is. But let's see if this is done. So once this is done, I need to go to the next page. So there is nothing else that we need to do here, and we need to run this command which will expose the Argo CD. By default, Argo CD server is not publicly exposed. For the purpose of this workshop or purpose of this video, we will use the load balancer to make it usable. If you see here, kubectl patch service Argo CD server, and we are exposing it with a load balancer. So let me copy this one. So let me go to the VS Code. I'll clear the screen and I'll paste this command. And you should be getting a message called patched. If you see here, service Argo CD server is patched. First, let's verify what are all the things that we get with this namespace. So firstly, I'll say kubectl get ns, and let's see what are all the different namespaces that we have. If you see here, Argo CD is one namespace. So what I'll do is I'll show you all the things that are present in this Argo CD. Okay, so I'll just say kubectl get pods in the namespace Argo CD. So you should be seeing some pods that are created. If you see here, Argo CD or server, all the things, application, notification, Redis, repo, all these things are created by Argo CD. So the next thing that we need to do is you will have to wait for 2 more minutes for the load balancer to get created. Once that is created, you need to export that, and you need to get the load balancer URL. Once you get that URL, you can log into the Argo CD, and you can then start using Argo CD to deploy your application. So let's wait for 1 more minute for this to complete. So before that, we can go ahead and install this one. We can go ahead and install the node exporter using Helm on the Kubernetes. So for that, if you do not know how to install Helm, so you can just go ahead and install Helm on Mac or Helm on Windows or on your Windows or on your Linux machine. So it is going to be the same process, but but the code and everything will be similar. Okay, but you can follow this documentation, official documentation provided by Helm. Okay, so firstly I'll add a Prometheus community Helm repository, so just copy this one. But before that, let's check if we didn't miss anything. Okay, so yeah, so let me copy this one. I'll just come over here, let me paste this one. Okay, so Prometheus community is already added. Next, we need to create one more namespace for Prometheus node exporter. So I'll just copy this one. I'll paste this. This is going to create a namespace for the node exporter, and we need to install Prometheus node exporter. Okay, so let's just copy this and paste it here. While this is getting installed, we can proceed with the other installation that we required for the Argo CD. Okay, so if you see here, this is done now. Okay, now let's go ahead and expose the let's get the load balancer of the Argo CD. So let's go to the same documentation that we were following. Let's export this Argo CD server. So let's copy this one, let's paste this. Okay, so what we need to do is let's get actually what I thought is we need to wait, but instead, if you're seeing here, it is getting exported to an environmental variable, and we need to check the value there. So let me clear the screen. So you can type in echo dollar, and you can paste this environmental URL. And if you see here, you will get a load balancer address. So copy that, go to your browser and paste it, and you should be seeing Argo CD. So let's go to advanced and let's click on proceed further. So Argo CD application will be open for you, and you need to provide the admin username and password. So the username would be admin initially, but for the password you need to run this command to get that. So let me copy this one. Let's go here, paste this, and again it will be stored inside this environmental variable. So let me copy this one. So let's remove Argo CD server and paste this one, Argo password. And this is the password. Let me copy this, paste it here in the application, and let me sign in. Okay, so we have logged in to our Argo CD application. Now let's go ahead and manage the repositories. So I'll click on this and let's go inside repositories, and let's click on connect repo using HTTPS, and let's grab it from the repository that I'm following. So let me copy this one and come here, and I need to provide the URL here, just providing that. I'll go with git and I'll select default, and I don't want to give username and password because this is a public repository, and nothing else. I'll leave everything else as default, and I'll click on connect. And if you see here, the connection status was successful. Let's go to manage your application and diagnose health problems. So let's go there and let's click on create new app. Let's go into I'll just name this as Amazon Prime, and the project name would be default. I'll select that. Sync policy, I'm going to use automatic because I don't want to go with it again. I'll select the repo URL and a cluster URL. I'll click on that. You will see this Kubernetes.default as service. I'll select that. Namespace, I'll just give that as default because we are going to deploy that in the default namespace. That should be fine. And I think nothing else. We also need to provide the Kubernetes manifest files location path. And if you see this path, if you see the repository, it's inside Kubernetes. So I'll just copy this one. I'll come over here and I'll mention Kubernetes K should be caps here. Make sure that is right. And once you have this in place, let's go ahead and click on create. So this is all you have to do. And if you see here, it's getting synced. So let's wait for that to complete. So it's still progressing. So it will take some moments for it to complete. If you see here, it's creating a replica set. Because first let me show you the manifest file, so then it will be clear to you. So deployment.yaml. So if you see here, I'm creating two replicas. The name of the app is Prime app, and the image that it is going to use is something that I just created from here, if you see here, Amazon Prime, Monkin Cloud / Amazon Prime, latest is the thing that we are using. If you see here, that is what it is. And the container port is port 3000. Okay, so if that is good, let's see the node service YAML. So this is required in order for the node extractor tool to work on the EKS cluster. So this will use port 9100. Okay, so this looks good. And if you see here, it is going to use node exporter, and the type is node port service. Okay, so next we are going to create a service.yaml for the application itself. It's going to run on 30,001 because node port service will always operate in a particular range, which is something between 32,000 or 30,000 to 32,000. So make sure to check that out. And the port is 3000. The target port is also 3000, but the node port is 30,001. And we are going to use Prime app everywhere. Okay. So if this looks good, let's check the status here. I think it's still creating the replica set, so let's wait for that to complete. But meanwhile, what we can do is we can complete the monitoring section of this application. So let's scroll all the way down, and if you see here, we need to make certain changes. So we created this node port Prometheus node exporter, and then we install this Helm as well. But we also need to make changes on the node scrape or the Prometheus application. So we need to add a job to scrape metrics on the node IP 9001 metrics into the Prometheus.yaml. So we need to update this one. So firstly, what I need, I'll just copy this one. Here I need a node IP address. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this one. I'll go inside the monitoring, this one. I think this is where we deployed. If you see here, Grafana server is where we have deployed the Prometheus as well. So let me hit, because it has come out of the SSH session, I'll relog in, and inside that I'll open sudo vi /etc/Prometheus, and inside Prometheus we have a file called Prometheus. Okay, so here I need to add one more job. So I'll go into insert mode, I'll scroll all the way down. So let me go all the way down, and I'll hit and let me paste the copied code here. And here I need to provide the node IP. So the node IP, how to get the node IP? Go to your application or the Kubernetes EKS cluster, open any of the EC2, and open an instance here. If you see here, this is the instance ID. Basically, it is going to create an instance ID for you. So copy the public IP address, come to your terminal. So just replace this node IP with this node IP that you just copied. So this is fine. I'll click on escape, :WQ and exclamation mark, and hit enter. So that is done. Okay, now we need to reload it again. I told you, right, we need to use that tool called prompt tool. So I'll just search for that. I'll go ahead and we need to use this. If the configuration is fine or not, will let us know. If you see here, it is giving us success, and then we need to reload the Prometheus configuration. So I'll just rerun this, and once that is done, let's go back to the Prometheus application. We need to see one more application that's coming up, that is EKS. Okay, so let's reload this, and EKS is taking time. So if you see here, the state is unknown, but it will take some time and it will be up and running. But you need to make sure that port 9100 is open, right? So if you don't do that, you won't get the details as expected. Okay, but we are getting an error saying context deadline exceeded, but I think we need to troubleshoot that issue further. But this is how you do it. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if the Argo CD pipeline is done. Let's refresh it. I think it's done. It has deployed. So what I'll do is I'll just copy the instance that I got. Okay, so this is the instance ID. I'll copy this one. I'll go to the browser. and I'll give 30,001 because that's where the application is running. Let's see 30,000. Also make sure to whitelist 30,001 on the security group of this one, of this EC2 instance, right? So let's go to this one. Okay, so let's open any one of the security group. Let's go ahead and add the custom IP. So I'll just add this one, sorry, not this one. So it should be 30001. Okay, so it should be from anywhere, and I'll say app hyphen port, and I'll save the rules. Once that is done, you should be able to access the application. Let's give it a moment. So I think I missed it. So let's go to EC2, copy any one of the IP from here. This should be good. Let me copy that. And it should be 3001. Let's see if the Prime application loads or not. Yeah, we are seeing the application. If you see here, it is working on port 30,001, and this instance that you see is the node IP. So as you saw, our EKS cluster is having 2 nodes, and on that node, one of the node was this, and this application is accessible within the Kubernetes cluster also. And let's also verify Prometheus once more. I think we need to wait for some time because we are getting deadline exceeded error, and we need to troubleshoot that further. Basically what I suspect is, let's go to the documentation once more and scroll all the way down. I think we provided /metrics itself, but sometimes it takes time. And let's also verify 9100 is open or not. So let's open the security group. 9100 is open, but on this instance, not on the instance that we just launched. Okay, so let's open the security group of this. Let's go and add this custom IP and 9001 from everywhere, and this should be Prometheus port, and I'll just save the rules, and that should be good. I think this is going to work now because the port 9100 was not open. Let's see if we added 9100. Yeah, 9100 was not open previously. As you can see, even the K8s instance is up and running. Yeah, this is how you troubleshoot the issue, guys. If you understand the concept well, then this is all you have to do. So make sure to build this project. I know we have done a lot of things in this particular project. Take a moment, sit back, have a cup of coffee, and build this project. I know this is going to cost you money, but that's fine. You are going to learn a lot of things. As you see, I did not know about Prometheus and Grafana. I learned on myself and I built it. Although I knew it, how it works and things like that, but integrating that with Jenkins, integrating that with Node Extractor and EKS is something that I explored while building this project. I hope it will help you. If you're liking the content that I'm creating, please consider subscribing and share it with your friends. Thank you, and I will see you in the next demonstration video. Until then, bye. Now, after completing this project, there is one more thing that you need to do, that is clean up of your AWS account and the resources. So to do that, what you need to do, first you need to clear the cluster node group and then the cluster itself. So to do that, you can run this command. So EKS cluster delete node group. So let me run that. And the name was actually public one, so I'll give that. And once this is done, you can go ahead and delete the cluster itself by running EKSCTL delete cluster AMC demo or the cluster name. So this is one. And again, one more thing that you need to do is you need to remove prime server and monitoring server. So let's click on instant state, terminate and delete instance, and terminate the EC2 instances. So this will clear all the application that we installed. Everything will be demolished. And then only thing that you will have to do after this is, once the node group is deleted, you can go ahead and remove the EKS cluster itself. If that is not working, then you will be in trouble. But if it still doesn't work, right, what you can do is one hack is that you can go to CloudFormation template and you can remove the stacks here directly, or force delete it. If any resources are not deleted correctly, you can force delete it here. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to cover in this video. If you're liking the content, please consider subscribing. Thank you.